Maya looked around in wide-eyed horror as every single item in her whole bedroom started to shift around. The floor started rippling like water, moving the mirrors, timepieces, and copper pot. The pot fell and spilt the ashes on the floor, which rippled to move them to the side just as all 7 mirrors fell and smashed into pieces. The clock started turning rapidly, its hands spinning and spinning. The window started opening and closing with force as it fogged up, and then the whole house started moving and creaking as if it were alive. Maya felt her hair stand up on end, adrenaline rushing through her. She curled her knees to her chest on the bed, closed her eyes and covered her ears. "Stop!" she screamed. You are probably wondering why Maya's house seems to be throwing a fit. Well, let's go back a few minutes and all will be explained. Bubbling with excitement, Maya slammed the book Advanced Chronological Transmutations onto her bed. She had folded the page she needed, so she turned straight to it. Chapter 7, The Temporal Maturation Ritual. She skipped the warning at the top of the page and went straight to the required materials list. 7 reflective surfaces. She glanced at the 7 mirrors she had placed in a semicircle around her bedroom. Check. 5 items of deep personal sentiment belonging to the caster. She patted the pile of childhood toys on the bed next to the book. Check. Minimum 3 timepieces of varying ages. Within the mirror semicircle set in a triangle was an analog clock, a kitchen timer, and a watch. Check. Finally, a brass burning vessel. She hadn't been able to find anything brass, but she had a copper pot, or at least she thought it was a copper pot. She was sure it would be good enough. Check. Only then did she read the warning at the top of the page. This spell requires intermediate smoke manipulation. Do not attempt without proper ethereal vapor training. Maya didn't know what that was. In all honesty, she didn't really believe in magic, or even that this so-called spell would work. But the old lady had said it would, and she had been weird, so maybe it would. Witches were meant to be weird, right? Still, the spell said you had to manipulate the smoke, and that's precisely why she had a little pink handheld fan. She read through the instructions one more time, and then she grinned. She was ready. She was going to make herself an adult and finally get out of her mum's house. She went over to the copper pot and one by one placed her childhood toys into it. First was the raggedy stuffed rabbit that was missing an eye. "Goodbye, Mr. Jones," she said as she tossed the rabbit into the pot, memories flashing through her mind of when she would always sleep with him as a child. Then was the worn jump rope with frayed handles. It hadn't been used in years. However, she had loved playing jump rope with her neighbor friends when she was young, though as they had grown older, that group of friends had drifted apart. Some had moved, some had changed, and the rest just slowly fell out of contact. She placed the rope on top of Mr. Jones. Then came the yellow plastic tea set she used to do pretend tea parties with, then a small book, with My Secret Diary written messily with crayon on the front. Maya had written all her thoughts in that book for years. It seemed a shame to get rid of it now, but she was determined. The spell said things of sentimental value. This feeling meant she was doing it right. She really hoped it would work. Lastly was a music box ballerina, so old it no longer spun or played a tune. Maya had wanted to be a ballerina when she was younger. Her mother had taken her to practice 5 days a week. A broken ankle when she was 12 had ended that hope though. In the pot it went with the others. She poured some oil over it that she had borrowed from her friend at school, whose father was a mechanic, and then she lit a match and tossed it in. Immediately the oil set alight, and the items from her childhood started burning and crackling. She watched, mesmerized for a second, and then she remembered. She had to chant. She quickly dashed back to the book, went over the words one more time, switched the fan in her hand on, then went to blowing at the smoke now coming out of the copper pot. The book said to use ethereal vapor techniques to manipulate the smoke into a spiral around the timepieces, but that's exactly what she would use the fan for. She started spinning the fan in a circle through the smoke as she spoke. "Kronos, hear my fervent plea, cast away my youth from me, through flame and glass and time zone flow, let my mature spirit grow, by embers dance and mirrors gleam, fulfill my age advancing dream." She glanced at one of the mirrors, but nothing was happening. The smoke was barely spiraling, just moving straight upwards and hitting the ceiling of her room. She repeated the chant, moving the fan more vigorously, but still, the smoke just kept floating up. She tried again, and again, and again, and again. She kept looking at the mirror to see if anything had changed about her, but still, she looked like her 16-year-old self. Eventually, the items in the pot started to turn black, and then the flame died. The last of the smoke disappeared upwards. Maya huffed. She looked one more time at one of the mirrors, but still she was just as young as she had been before. "This is stupid anyway," she said. There was no such thing as magic. The woman in the shop was a fraud. It was foolish to think some magic spell would make her an adult so she could escape her mum. She let out a big sigh and went to lie on the bed. Then she stopped. She thought she had left the book open on one side, but now it was closed in the middle of the bed. Odd. Maybe she did put it there. She picked it up and put it on her bedside table. Then she lay down on her bed. It was late, almost 3 a.m. She had school tomorrow. She should probably get to sleep, otherwise she would struggle to function. As she closed her eyes, a bang made her jump. "Whoa!" she exclaimed, and looked over the side of the bed to see that the book had fallen onto the floor. She was sure she had put it properly on the table. She picked it up and put it back. Then she looked at the assortment of objects she had put together for the spell. "I should probably clean those up before bed," she said to herself softly. Before she could get back out of bed, however, there was a loud creak. As her feet landed on the floor, she felt the floorboards rumble, and in fright, she lifted her feet up again. Then the room turned into chaos. The picture on the wall shifted to an odd angle, and the doorknob started rattling. That was only the start. "Great, now you are all caught up, let's get back into it." "Stop!" Maya screamed. Then just like that, everything stopped. She stayed still for a moment, her thoughts racing. What was happening? Had she imagined that? Was she dreaming? Slowly she opened her eyes. The room was a mess, as if a tornado had run through it, taking its sweet, sweet time. "What the hell?" she whispered. In response, the window slammed shut, making her jump and scream. She snapped her head towards it and saw the window open back up by itself. She couldn't believe her eyes. "I must be dreaming, I must be dreaming." She attempted to get out of bed, but once again, failed. She jumped back in pain as blood started seeping from her left foot bottom where she had stepped on a piece of broken glass from the mirrors. She grimaced, pulled it out, and tossed it back onto the floor. Maya could barely even process the pain. "I must be going crazy," she said, bewildered as the floor started rippling again. Her mouth fell open as all the broken glass from the mirrors began moving to the side of the room. Then she heard some crashing coming from down the hall. What? There was a rumbling, getting closer and closer, and then the door flung open. In shot a roll of toilet paper that hit Maya straight in the face. She fell back to the bed with an oof, but then the pillow jumped up to catch her head. "What is happening?" she screamed. In response, there was a thud as the book fell off the bedside table again. The spell, she realized, and as she reached out for the book, it flew upwards. She raised her hands to protect her face, realized it wasn't going to hit her, then she snatched it out of the air. No, she whispered. No. What had she done? She flipped back to chapter 7, then scanned down the page to the bottom titled Critical Notes. She read aloud. "Sentimental items must belong to caster or spell will transfer to item's true owner. Smoke manipulation requires years of training. Improper handling may cause unpredictable magical discharge. Ensure all mirrors reflect inward or temporal energy may scatter. Perform only during liminal hours, midnight to 3 a.m, when time barriers are weakest. May give souls to inanimate objects." She froze. Give souls to inanimate objects? It couldn't be. The items she had burned had been hers, yes, but she had grown up in this house. The smoke hadn't really spiraled, it had just gone up to the ceiling, and the mirrors had been in a semicircle, not all of them facing inwards. The floors rippling, the window moving. "House? Are you alive?" she said softly. In response, the window slammed twice, making her jump again. "Stop doing that," she snapped, and then the whole house creaked sadly. It dawned on Maya. She hadn't turned herself into an adult. She had turned her house into one. No! She jumped out of bed, successfully this time, and ignoring the cut on her foot, she started pacing rapidly. She flicked through the pages of advanced chronological transmutations. There had to be a reverse spell, a way to stop this. There must be. With each each step she took, the house creaked in rhythm until she paused. "Can you stop doing that?" she snapped angrily. The house gave another sad creak. "And close the door," she said, and sure enough, her door closed by itself. She started pacing again as she flicked from the front of the book to the back. The floor was slowly moving up and down with each step. This was horrible. This was terrible. If her mum found out... Goodness gracious! Came a voice from the hallway. Maya froze. Her mum was awake. "Maya?" her mother called. "Maya, do you hear that? Something's wrong," she said, knocking on the door. Maya's heart dropped to the bottom of her stomach.
I got something to tell you. Look, this isn't the only story I've made. If you want to see another video like this, click this video right here.